What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Roots and Refuge Farm. I'm gonna wait for my tea to brew. And I just decided I would turn the camera on and hang out with y'all this morning. And today is one of those days, you ever have these days where your to-do list is like so much longer than your actual time that you have to do the list? And so you know starting the day that you're gonna have to like not do everything. And so you get kind of paralyzed by that and pretty much do nothing instead. It's like 10:30, 10:42, and I'm definitely on the do much and nothing train, so I gotta get it together. A cup of tea is a grounding thing, right? That kind of helps us to get in place. I'm gonna go out to the garden. I'll probably piddle around in there for a little bit, but I think I'm probably gonna work on some odds and ends recipes today. Most of which I think I've showed you guys how to make. I've got some eggplants here. I'm gonna make some baba ganoush dip. Oh, it's so good. I do have a video about that over on the farmer's table. One of the things that I do when I need motivation is I'll look at cookbooks, especially obviously if I need like kitchen motivation, if I need garden motivation. Sometimes I'll watch like Charles Dowding's videos, or I'll just go find some inspiration somewhere and it kind of kickstarts me. This morning I'm reading this cookbook. So this cookbook is called Clara's Kitchen. If you've never heard of this channel, Miss Clara has since passed away. I think it's been a handful of years ago, but she had a YouTube channel. I mean, like kind of one of the original ones. I mean, she started out really early, but she was a young woman, a young girl through the Depression, and she taught like simple Depression era cooking. And this book was sent to me by an online friend, I don't know, a year or so ago, and I had glanced through it, but I hadn't gone in depth. And one of my boys actually pulled this off the shelf because I guess one of the cooking YouTubers they watch has referenced this multiple times before. And they were like, Mom, can we make Clara's Kitchen recipes? And I was like, yeah, I think we can. There is admittedly, because it's Depression era, there's a lot of bread and pasta and stuff like that. So I may have to play with it some, but it's definitely inspiring. Her stories are great. I actually love the review on the back of this book. Cooking the recipes she learned as a girl during the Great Depression. Not so mild-mannered great-grandmother Clara Canisiari minces garlic but never words. She's a pretty sassy lady. Her YouTube videos were probably some of the first I ever watched. I remember watching them when I lived in an apartment like many years ago. I'll see if I can find a link to that book for you guys. I'm not sure where it's sold because that one was sent to me. All right, so we got our power back this last weekend. I made a ton of content through our experience post-Helene. And at the end of this weekend, I'd had plans with my sons to take them down to Charleston Saturday, and we ended up getting to go because our power came back on. We went down there. My kids like comics and stuff, and so there was a Comic-Con and they like dressing up. So we did that. It was fun. It was good for them. They were such troopers during the week that I was really glad that we got to still hold on to those plans. Plus we'd bought tickets. Now this week, we had a planned visit from Jeremiah's brother and his family, but we actually have more family that has come in town because a couple of Jeremiah's siblings are stationed down in Florida, and so that some of them evacuated and are here. So that's kind of fun. I think we're gonna, you know, spend time. Lots of toddlers. There's lots of toddlers. We have, all of our kids are older than most of his siblings' kids, and so we have, let's see, we'll have 5 toddlers around this week, which will be really fun. We still actually haven't put up all of our hurricane stuff because I just wasn't sure what was going to happen with Milton, so we still have everything pulled out that if for some reason it shifted and came our way, we would be prepared. I'll never again just be like, oh, they're saying it's not coming to us. There's no need to get ready. Never again. Look at this pretty little pastoral picture. Hello, sheep. Is that my Tilly girl? She loves to be the star of the show. And there's Ramona. These two are the friendliest. The others are still kind of hang back a little bit. Though I have noticed that after our whole, you know, lambing difficulties where we had a lot of issues, and I spent a lot of time with these mamas right after that, they're babies, they have warmed up to me a lot after that. I guess that transcends our difference in species. Women bond over birth, right? Look at all these saboteurs. They're gonna have a rude awakening when the time comes for me to actually protect the garden again. I've been letting them have free reign while there was nothing in here that mattered. Their time is coming to a close on that freedom. Well, I was gonna go pick peppers, but I think I might just hang out here so I can watch Sweet Maya ride the horses. Hey, baby.
My only trick is not fall off.
Once a week, the guys saddle up the horses and take them on like a really long ride, like out on the road, through the dirt roads around here and out into the woods. So I've been processing a lot since Hurricane Helene, and especially since we got power back, and the temptation arises to just go back to doing everything that the way you always have. And I said this, you know, the reason why I wanted to make all the content that I did while we were in the middle of it is that I just don't want to forget that measure of like motivation and urgency that I felt in the middle of it. And I knew as soon as the washing machine worked again and the air conditioning worked again and that everything came back to normal, that urgency would be somewhat quelled. So I've been thinking a lot the last few days as I have primarily just kind of got my house back into order. Like doing all of the laundry and all of the things that had to be done to get back to kind of reset to normal. I have a thought. I want to share it with y'all. And I would really love your input because I love what we can come up with when we kind of like share our thoughts. I mean, you guys think of so many things that I don't ever think of. And I know that I share things with you and you tell me, wow, that's exactly how I felt, but I didn't know what to say. So, you know, I wanted to share this thought with you and maybe we can get deeper to the bottom of it together than we could separately. All right, I'm mildly distractible, but you know, what else is new really? I was actually just looking at this patch of holy basil. And I had trimmed this back. A lot of my holy basil was really woody, but this is all very fresh. I should make some tea. You're not getting in there. I'm not opening that to you. These guineas think that we built this lovely house just for them. In the middle of this wildness, the roses have started to bloom a little bit again because the weather's cooled off. The pumpkin gathering has begun. I have no idea what I'm going to do with all these pumpkins. Preserve some. I may take some to the farmer's market because this is like less, this may be a quarter of what I've got right here. For shame. I'll add it to the garden collection for the time being. I'm actually going to finish this tea because if I start picking peppers, then it's going to get cold and bugs in it. So here's the thing that I was thinking. I am very, very opposed to living in fear. And it's one of the reasons why I have so stayed away from preparedness content. I was joking about it yesterday, but in all seriousness, in the less than 2 weeks since a hurricane hit my house, I've had more hateful and aggressive comments than I did in the 2 years before that. And after taking the time to really think about that, I'm like, what is the deal? I realize that there is this massive thing in our culture where people live in a certain measure of fear or addicted to fear through media, news, and all of that, that it has created, I think really like a disconnection from like the guts of our humanity, like the beauty of our humanity, the reality of our humanity. Like when you stay in a place of fear, I just think that it wrecks your nervous system so much that you kind of lose this sensitivity and tenderness that is really special. And that is just like a beautiful part of being a human, that we feel so much. But whenever you're staying in that elevated space of fear, you kind of have to get numb just so you can function. I told a story a long time ago, and I told it in the context of a devotional video. You know, I share my faith and sometimes do like more deep dives into that in specific videos, and there's a playlist of them. There's not a ton of them. I mean, in all my years doing content, probably like 20-ish videos. Like, and it's just really when I'm thinking about something really heavily. And I've been thinking about something the last few days that I probably will film a devotional about soon, once I kind of really have my head around it. But I told this story. It was a story that a friend of mine had told me, you know, that her mentor told her. Her mentor was in Israel, actually, and she was in the kind of the old city where the pathways are really narrow, and she was sitting at this cafe, and she heard this flock of sheep being moved down one of these really, really narrow streets. And at first, it sounded like women screaming, like it was this awful, terrified sound, which if you've never heard a scared sheep scream, I mean, if you just heard that with no context, you might think it was a woman screaming. And so she had startled and looked back and then realized it was a flock of sheep being moved. And there was a man behind it with like a rod, a shepherd's rod, but he was jabbing and pushing and shoving these sheep through this really narrow roadway. And it jarred the woman because it sounded so violent. And she stopped the waitress and she said, "Why is that shepherd pushing those sheep like that?" And the waitress looked at her and said, "Oh, that's not the shepherd, that's the butcher." Good job, Maya. I'm like a pesky fangirl to my husband and children. That's the butcher. Let that simmer. And that is why I say fear pushes and wisdom leads. And my big hesitation has always been, I don't want to push. I don't want to shove. Like, I've spent a significant amount of my life walking on eggshells and living in fear because I was surrounded by fear and pushed by fear and not being at ease and at peace. And I consider it a great deliverance in my life that I live in peace now. And I'm just not willing to depart from that. But I do also recognize that wisdom leads. And in being wise, you know, living in such a way, I've been saying this for like the last month and a half. It's been what's been on my mind for the last month and a half, leading up to the hurricane, and then of course much confirmed by it. But I want a life that's not easily shaken. So I've been thinking a lot about it the last day. Like, how do I dive in to really preparing without supporting the pushing, shoving, fearful aggression that comes when we live with our nervous systems in haywire dysfunction all the time. You cannot live long term with your nervous system, freaking out. It will make you sick. Like, raised cortisol levels over periods of time cause all sorts of issues, autoimmune issues. They bring disease into your body. It is not wise to live in fear. There's no longevity in it. There's no survival in it. If you're doing it for survival purposes, if you're staying in fear, if you are addicted to fear, if you are doom scrolling every single day and you're looking for confirmations that there are threats and you should be afraid, and you're staying in that elevated space where, when your nervous system is in fight or flight, you can't digest food. You can't do that. You got tummy issues, but you're addicted to fear. You're going to have to deal with that. There is a place, though, I firmly believe this, that we can be peaceful in preparation, not by aiming at just surviving any situation, but really aiming at thriving in our life overall. And this is what I've been pondering. How do we prepare peacefully? How do we navigate even when there's no reason, even when there's no threat, even when there's no obvious push to do it right now, when the washing machine works, whenever the electricity works, like whenever there's food on the grocery store shelves, there's no push. How do you follow the leading of wisdom into preparedness without having to be in an elevated and reactive state in order to do that? That's what I've been thinking about. I'm wanting to freeze dry a bunch of jalapeno peppers, but I'm going to take some of them and make more fermented hot honey. That I will shoot a video about. I haven't shot that video yet. I've made it a few times this summer and we have eaten a lot of it, but I want to make sure I put up more of these peppers. I've probably got, I don't know, it's supposed to be like the lows are 40-ish next week Fahrenheit, like 4 Celsius. So we're getting down close to freezing. It can go either way. We can freeze as early as like the first week of November, or it may, I mean, we could go as late as the 3rd week of November. Either way, I need to get these peppers off the plant and do something with them. These are called lemon spice jalapeno peppers. So all jalapeno peppers start green and then ripen. Most traditional varieties ripen to red, but these ripen to yellow, and then there's one called pumpkin spice that ripens to orange. They still taste a lot like a jalapeno, maybe a little tiny bit fruitier, but as is with regular jalapenos, when they ripen, they get kind of sweeter but also kind of hotter. You can harvest them in either color. Now look at this massive volunteer beet. Look how it's growing. It's growing out of the gravel. I've just left this because I'm deeply fascinated about what will happen here. Now, these are called Pippin's Golden Honey. These peppers are amazing. And they're also an interesting one because they start kind of purpley and then they begin to get more dark orange as they ripen, and the flavor intensifies and it's really sweet as they turn orange. So these I am mixing with my fermented honey because I don't actually like things to be like devastatingly hot, but I love the flavor of peppers. So this gives me a nice blend to have some spicy peppers and some just very flavorful sweet ones. So all of those thoughts about fear and wisdom and figuring out how do I come across this in wisdom, settledness without forfeiting the peace that I've come to so deeply appreciate in my life. I have some ideas. I don't fully know yet, but we've been talking about the potential of like turning off all, like flipping the breakers and going like no power except for we'll leave our freezers and our fridges on, but taking away all the other conveniences, you know, that's not going to cause us loss, and doing a weekend a month that way, or doing something like that. Because one of the things I really loved about the week after Helene was the bonding that really happened with my kids, and honestly it was because there were just no distractions. We were busy, we had a lot to do, but all of the stuff that pulls you away on the regular is just gone. And so we were talking about potentially doing that, as not in a reactive way, but in a proactive way of like, hey, let's see how we fare in different seasons. The other thing is, like, I felt so deeply renewed in gratitude by this experience of going through the hurricane and spending, you know, a little over a week without power. And you know, my children had never had such an opportunity before. I mean, like, why would they be super grateful for the running water? They don't really have a grid of what it means to go without it. And I just think that it might be really cool, just like to do it on purpose. As I've looked at different things that I could have to be prepared, I started thinking, well, why would I wait for an emergency to ever do my laundry by hand? Would it be beneficial to me to choose restriction in order to grow gratitude? You know, I mentioned last week, discomfort grows us. And so a lot of times we don't choose to go into uncomfortable situations. A lot of times they're thrust on us and then we see how we respond. But I think of it like going to the gym. I mean, that's choosing discomfort in order to grow strength. And I wonder, could it be beneficial to choose the restriction of this week I'm not using the washing machine. I'm going to, get a system in place to wash laundry by hand. There's definitely an economic benefit to that. There's definitely a benefit to less consumption overall. But is there a heart benefit of being in a place by wisdom of preparedness that even if you never actually need it for an emergency, it grew you as a person along the way? Come over here next door to this tunnel. I'm kind of curious to see how soon I can harvest rutabagas. It's got to be fairly soon. They smell spicy. Not really bulbing up much yet. So last year, actually around this time, we did kind of a self-imposed challenge where we just didn't go into the grocery store for the remainder of the year. We made the two exceptions of going before Thanksgiving and before Christmas. And then I still ordered bulk staples to keep my pantry up because I didn't want to completely deplete my pantry doing a challenge. But I didn't go in the grocery store for any, impulses or last minute things. I had to think ahead. It really helped kind of kick some of the vestiges of convenience that were still in our life. And I was thinking about this, kind of pondering this idea of how do we joyfully embrace the restriction, self-imposed restriction that can create some discomfort, that can create some growth, and really maintain this stance of peacefully bringing resilience into our lives so that they're not easily shaken. So I would love to know, what do you think? Ponder this. Ponder it with suggestions for me. Ponder it for you. How could you really embrace the romance of slowing down, the beauty of gratitude, and not living in such a blindly consumeristic way that you don't even realize how great you have it, the conveniences that you have. I've been so inspired by the stories that I've heard of people sharing their resilience, both out of choice and necessity. It's inspiring to hear people who are living resilient lives that aren't easily shaken. And so I'd love to know, what are your thoughts on what do you think some good applications would be? Because I'm trying to figure out, how are we going to approach this? Just something to ponder. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna go inside. I think my sister-in-law will probably be over here soon. I'm gonna hang out with her today and enjoy some time with our family. I'll check back in later this week, but I'd love your input on this. Please do comment down below. Thanks for hanging out with me today. God bless you. Until next time.